Welcome everyone to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals. And part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hour sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. We've had a bunch of questions submitted already, as you can see, which we'll go through. But if there's anybody here live on the call who would like to ask any questions, feel free to flag yourself in the chat functionality, which will be monitored. Also, there's usually lots of other amazing SEOs live on the call that share their ideas, experiences, and perspectives. I personally think that's one of the best things about SEO Office Hours, not just hearing from the four of us, but everybody else. So please continue to do that. And back in her rightful place in the co-host seat is Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Yes, I'm very happy to be back. I had a couple of appointments last week and before that, so I wasn't able to come. So thank you very much for David for being the co-host last week and Natalia the week before that. And I'd like to say hello to everyone that's joined us. We look like we've got busy SEO office hours. Hello, Frank, Amrit, Jordan, Simon, Nafish, Lot, Olesa, Walid, Neil. We have Sharira, Umama, Boran, Albert as well, Franziska, Favor, Deepak, Naveen, Dan. I'm just looking, there's a few more people joining. So thank you for joining us live, and thank you also to those that are watching their recording. Oh, Mama said missed you. Oh, thanks. That's so nice. And I'm just looking at where everyone's dialing in from. So we have India, we have UK, Spain. I think we might have Pakistan as well. If I haven't mentioned where else we're looking. Estonia, Cameroon. Okay, great, perfect. We have a very international SEO off hours today. So as Mike mentioned, I'm Juliana Turnbull, and I'm here in Barcelona, Spain. And I run digital marketing events in my free time. Last Friday, we had a great event called Search Barcelona, and we had Natalia and David come, as well as some other people. Hello, David. Natalia was like waving there. So I really like to have events in our community, and hopefully soon we can actually go back to doing some online events too. Oh, thanks, Jordan. And also saw Jordan when he came to Barcelona at Christmas time. And Charlotte or Lot is here, and she has come to some of the events as well. So that's great. And also wanted to say thank you very much to our special guests for joining us. We are welcoming back Roxana. We had a special guest who was sick. We've got the flu going around in where we are right now. And Roxana, thank you very much for stepping in at such short notice and coming back on the show.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, it's my pleasure. I enjoy this very much.
So Roxana and I, we met at WTS Fest a few weeks ago, which is great. Good to see you in person as well. And there were some books being shared as well. Can we see that? So this is Community Building for Marketers, written by Reej. Her book launch is actually going live. And Eva's also sharing that. That's going live this Wednesday. That she has a book launch, but you can also, of course, buy this on Amazon. We will share the link later. And I just highlight this one because it's all about community in search, digital marketing, and everyone's been coming to SEO office hours on a regular basis. Not everyone, of course, but many people. This is our 62nd episode, and I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming and being consistent and joining us. So Roxana has come back. I think this might be your third time on the show.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's great. And you've also spoken at many different events. You've spoken at Brighton SEO FOMO, WTS Fest. You've also been a judge for many awards, the UK Dev Awards, and you've also contributed to publications like Mastering In-House. You are currently the head of SEO and search at LMA, where you specialize in technical and image SEO for the enterprise websites. So thank you for coming back on our show today.
Glad to be here.
Thanks. I look forward to hearing some extra insights from you. You were last on our show in January with Isaac, and you can connect with Roxana here. And hello, Iva. Thank you for coming on the show. We also met at WTS Fest, and we've met at a few other events at Brighton SEO. Thank you for joining us on our first show in March.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, so you sound very busy. Apart from being a freelance SEO and content specialist, you're also an or conference organizer. You said that you fell in love with conferences since you were part of Vox Days in Belgrade in 2016. It's when you started volunteering at conferences. And then in 2022, you said that you organized your first HeapCon. And this year, it's the seventh edition and the fourth that you're organizing. But outside of that, you also helped to organize and moderate Heap Space meetups. And this year, you're organizing the first edition of a Belgrade SEO conference on the 12th of September. So, wow, that's quite a lot that you're doing and in your free time as well. I'll share a link to the Belgrade SEO conference. How do you find all the time to do this?
What is free time exactly? I've not heard of that thing. What do you mean? Is there a time outside of work and doing these things? Is it supposed to be? Kidding. Yeah, it's something that I found as my passion on the side, which is why when I went freelance, I was dedicating myself to that. So easy to find the time, but if it's something you enjoy, then you get around to it.
Great. Yeah, thank you. And as Roxana said, it's not work when you enjoy it. So I've shared the link to the conference in there. How many people actually do you have expecting to come to this conference?
So I've only announced it like a couple of weeks ago, and it's still in progress. But basically, I expect around 200 people. It's the first edition. It's one day only. Not even the website is fully up. I'm still coding it. Yeah, this is like a mock-up. We have the date, we have the venue, and now we're in the process of finalizing everything.
Oh, great. Thank you. That looks like a very exciting conference. So I've shared a link there, and please connect also with Iva if you want to know more information. I'm going to pass back to you, Mike, because we've got loads of questions today on the show.
Yes. I mentioned on LinkedIn, our post box is bursting with problems. So let's crack on. Okay, question number one. I'm deep into a research project that's taking forever. It involves analyzing massive data sets for content marketing campaigns. I don't fully trust ChatGPT's output, and I worry others won't be thorough enough. Any tips on delegating or writing prompts that will save time and still deliver accurate results? This is just one of many projects, so I need a system that works. Who would like to kick off? Roxana, go for it.
Every time I hear I'm looking for insights from my data and I'm using ChatGPT, I get like a shiver down my spine. Because the way ChatGPT works, it doesn't understand numbers and you can't rely on it for this. But that doesn't mean it can give you ideas on what to look for in the data, but you always have to double check everything. You can't take anything for granted and just use it as is, as it comes out of ChatGPT. You have to double check everything, especially with data. But you said it's a lot of data that you need to analyze. And one of the simplest things I find when working with a lot of data is using visuals to aggregate the data and get a glance of what's going on. So that's something that ChatGPT can do for you. You still have to do it yourself, but it helps you understand trends, understand what's happening in time and different things like that. And then once you have these visuals, you might use those in your prompts with ChatGPT to say, look, this is what's going on in my data. What do you see here? Do you notice anything? And then try to get some ideas back and then think for yourself, do those ideas make sense in the context of your business or your project or whatever you're looking at? Or do they seem a bit far-fetched? Because ChatGPT is not part of your project. It doesn't know everything, but it could still be a good place to get ideas to then follow yourself and see where they lead.
Amazing. Eva, what about you? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree with Roxana. I've been testing out ChatGPT multiple times with lots of different things, and it can get the data right. But if you do have a data set that you need analyzing, definitely, yeah, Roxana said, put it into it. If you give it the data, it can be good as a help. You can automate certain things with it, but definitely not as a primary one. There's so many other LLMs and tools you can use to process the data. ChatGPT is very good on a basic level. I always recommend to anyone, even clients, everything, keep it on a basic level because it's still not a fully developed AI. It's still like in the machine learning phase, I would say so, and it still needs to get better at it.
Great, Joe. What about you? Anything to add?
I have nothing to add in this area. I just have some comments from people. So if you have anything to add, then feel free. Otherwise, I'll go to the comments.
I was just going to say that I was actually going to go more on the people side because I think everything's been covered really well with using AI tools. Because part of the question was not worry others won't be as thorough. And I think with that, like I've worked with a lot of people on projects like this, and what I would say is make sure you set them up for success rather than starting off on that foot of they're not going to be as good. And try and make sure that you make room for things like feedback and do some with them just to make sure that they are doing what you would do. And you could do this with both AI tools and also people, where you do a bit of it yourself and then you basically compare the results, and then you can use that as a way of teaching either the AI tool or the person what you did differently. And actually, in some cases, they might be better than you as well. So they might spot things that you didn't. That's all I was going to add. Joe, do you have anything in the chat?
Yeah, just you mentioned that you actually used deep research and it was quite good. Roxana said that was a good tip and she's used it before. That's it so far. So I think this is an area where I know I need to do a bit more research into.
Great. I think so. Deep research being part of ChatGPT. Roxana's nodding, so that's
Yeah,
good.
it's one of their newest features where it doesn't just collate an answer for you like you would normally. It actually goes on the web, checks a few websites and gets deeper information for you based on the question you ask. It's not just the generative side of it. It also brings information from this website, just like ChatGPT's search functionality does, but on steroids, pretty much.
Great, amazing. Next question. And we're going to pick up from a question that was asked last week, but we got it literally just before we went live. And I don't think I fully understood the question actually. So I think I gave totally the wrong answer. And thankfully, the live audience did get it and wrote some really helpful things. But I thought I would bring it back again just in case Eva or Roxana had any thoughts. And we also have a similar question. So I'm going to put the two together and we'll see if we can help. So the question that we had last week, Joe will share the website in the chat. Sorry for those watching on YouTube afterwards. But basically, they work in SEO for this website, which is launching soon. The site has multiple location pages that need optimization. And their goal is to optimize the overall website and then create specific location-based content. However, there are two Safari locations, so it's a travel website in Africa that target the same audience and use similar keywords. My initial idea is to avoid cannibalization and to use a different set of keywords for each location. But I was wondering if there are other effective strategies I might not have yet considered. Any suggestions? So that was question one. I think where I made a bit of a mistake last week is that obviously it's a travel website and they're referring to sites that are on their site. And I got that a bit confused and thought they were talking about competitor websites. So apologies about that. Basically, got multiple location pages on their site, and a couple of them are competing for similar terms. So what should they do? And then the other location question is how can multi-location service businesses tap into local searches and real community issues, e.g. Design Studio London, when we are also based in 5 other major cities that offer services globally? Quite a lot there. Who would like to kick off? Roxana, you're smiling. Are you happy to go?
I'm smiling. I wanted to ask Eva, do you do a lot of this type of work with pages per location for websites?
I actually have, unfortunately, a lot of experience fixing those kinds of things.
Yes, that's where I was getting to, because usually the strategy is just to create like a template and then fill in some location keywords, some small differences, and launch 30 of these, and then people wonder why they don't work when it's pretty much the same thing. It's not really
Over and
helpful
over
for the
again.
user. Yeah, exactly. Do you have a strategy when you fix them? I have ideas on a strategy, but I haven't tried it. So I'd rather hear somebody who's tried it.
Yeah, so from what I worked on, I took over like a website that had not even 30, like 100 of those kinds of pages targeting each and every neighborhood that exists in like United States. I think it was California and Washington states. And definitely don't go that. I am very opposed to targeting a neighborhood that has like 1,000 people. It's not gonna do you anything. This is a different kind of example, but yeah, basically, I don't think it's cannibalization when you optimize it for the location. You have to localize it. Definitely some keywords will overlap, which is where I would suggest you get some core keywords, basically, as I call them, something that you're targeting the entire website on, and then create pages. And they're obviously going to be, or they're already there, I think, from the question. So optimize those for the same keywords as you would do the entire website, plus the location specific. And there's going to be something that differentiates the two locations, something that is unique to each location. So that could be also something to target at. And even though the audience will be the same, from my experience as a person who travels a lot, I will definitely like research each and every location that I want to go to. So it's not a problem that it's the same target audience. You can basically just localize it. And of course, apart from keywords, do the other things. But yeah, basically, it's gonna be like that. I would not suggest doing like a template thing because that hasn't proven in the past, but unique content on both of them. So you can make it similar, you can make it target similar keywords, just make both content unique and different. I think last year there was a lot of talk about penalization for those that did the copy content and target different location pages. So I'm a very big advocate of keeping the content unique. And yeah, for sure, there's only two locations, so you're gonna have the two pages. So definitely just bring up original content on them.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And as I said, I never had an opportunity to work on this, but that doesn't mean I haven't been thinking about it a lot because that's what you do. I don't know why. And a lot of the times, as you said, like with somebody that has every single neighborhood in every single city, you'd want to build all of that programmatically because who's crazy enough to manually write so many pages? And I love programmatic because that's what I do, enterprise websites, right? My idea was, and if anybody wants to try this, let me know if it works. You take your locations, you bring in your first party data that you have on those locations, if you have any, or on the users from those locations, what they might like. But you can also bring in some external data sets. To give you an example, if we're talking about travel and you have all these different places, you can get what's the top 10 most visited markets in that city or something, right? You can bring in that type of information for every single location you have. Best markets, best parks, best whatever, just in general, top 10 visited places. And then if you bring all these different data layers, you then can combine it into a page for that location using pretty much unique content because that data is going to be unique to that location, as you said, Eva, right? Try to go for that unique content. And if you put it together using AI, or you put it together in a bit of a template where it's going to be a section of top 10, but you bring unique data in that top 10, it doesn't really matter. As long as your end result is a page that's highly relevant for that location, because every single module actually points to something that's relevant to that location and not just generic copy that's the same everywhere. And you can do this programmatically. I don't see why not, but you just need a lot of data, I think.
And definitely like data from competitors as well. Like always look at what they're doing and try to up one on them. Like somebody in the comments said, add a video that's unique that has that the competition doesn't use or images. Like, and of course, like maybe I always like with local based businesses, this one that might not fall into a category, but the second question does like always optimize the Google My Business profile too. It's also like a source of data.
Amazing. Joe, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add, just a couple of comments from people.
Go for it.
Simon said actually there should be unique differences between the two Safari sites. What are they? And focus on them for that. And for question 3, can we go to question 3?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, yeah, question 3 is basically how can multi-location service businesses tap into local searches and real community issues? Jordan was saying that depending on the size of the location, it's beneficial to optimize the individual listings, their landing pages per location, and gain those local citations of NAP and PR, of course, if you have the budget. So yeah, I've got a couple of comments from those questions. And actually, I do have also another question that's come from the audience about a technical one that we can maybe ask afterwards. Rob said that these are two totally different types of businesses where in-person services are likely to have entirely different marketing needs. This is back to the design studio one. So this design studio location or locations, they're likely to need visits from customers as often as safari parks. I think this question needs 2 separate answers. Not merged as one. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, do you know what? I think as I was reading through the second one, I thought that But it was too late. I was already halfway through the question. We had so many questions. I was trying to bunch some together. So, but you are right, Rob. Thanks for pointing that out.
It's very difficult. Sam was saying in any niche, you're going to have overlapping keywords for different locations. I wouldn't focus on the keywords, but focus on that local information for people visiting your site and then look to optimize that. That's a very good point. Simon, has done this with hotels, for example, in Paris. There's very little to distinguish between them, but they may be located in different areas. I don't know, Simon. I think maybe the breakfast, you could distinguish the breakfast, or maybe like how old it is. Everyone loves like the oldness about Paris and some of these hotels.
Or the view.
Point of what?
Or the view. Like
Oh,
Paris, you
yes.
want to get the view of the Eiffel Tower.
La vue. Yes, exactly. Natalia, she's seconding what you have said, Roxana. We've had so many chats, so I can't remember exactly what you said, but she is saying that she would consider an approach, a mixed approach for this first question. Many pages are done programmatically, so you can do many of the pages programmatically, and then a couple of high traffic pages, make them personalized. And also, actually, back on this one, what I would suggest is if you're reporting to the C-level or reporting to the management, really try and focus on these top level or the most important high converting pages, because just if you're the only person or if there's not many people in your team, it's very difficult to optimize everything.
If you
Yeah,
don't
so
mind,
that's
though, just going back a bit to the design studio question, because they said, how do you tap into the problems of the needs of every market or things like that? And it makes me think about Google Trends, because you have trends by location and you can get that data, and maybe that's a way to kind of programmatically feed that data into your pages so you get unique content even though you're automating the process. But I guess it depends what kind of problems you're looking for and if Google Trends would actually help in that case.
Great, amazing answers. My answer to both questions, there you go, Rob, is just thinking about how, like I think it was Simon said, obviously you'd have those pages set up for targeting these keywords, but I'd be thinking more about the actual content of those pages themselves, like the sites themselves will be different. And you can find out that information from things like customer feedback and reviews, and really dig into what did people like about this particular site versus this one. And in terms of, and that kind of works with the other question as well, where I'm sure they have different types of businesses they work with. And I would be sharing things like case studies of the types of businesses you've worked in that area. I wouldn't do the thing that some agencies do, where you have, say, for example, a location page for London, and you have one for Greater London, and then you have one for each borough of London, and then you have one for each city. Don't do that. And talk about all the local coffee shops and stuff next to your design studio. But when I'm talking about making them unique, is more about thinking about, like Roxana was saying, the problems that you solve. And I would do that through the types of customers you work with. Joe, do we have anything else before we jump on to the next question?
No, we don't have anything else, but we have another question that's been submitted
Oh, yes, go for it.
by someone in the chat. So bear with me while I read this through. They're saying that they recently migrated from WordPress to Wix and their traffic has dropped significantly. After investigated, they realized that, and I will change, actually, I'll put this in the chat, actually, so everyone can see this. This is question 4.
Do you know what? We had Mordy here last week. This would have been a great question for him, wouldn't it? Because
yeah,
he works for Wix, or maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe Simon always seems to answer lots of the Wix questions, but I won't point out. It's just that I know that he has in the past. Okay, I'm just writing it in the chat. Okay, so as you can see, we've recently migrated from WordPress to Wix. The traffic has considerably dropped. That's because they think the domain changed from non-www to www, which has impacted the ranking. The dev team says that they cannot force a server level redirect to send traffic back to the non-www version. Now, both of these versions are live on Google, but the new one, which is the www, has over 1,000 pages unindexed and only 200 indexed so far. What are our best options to resolve this issue? Should they be handling the redirects differently, or is there another way to speed up the ranking recovery? Let us know. Oh, a good question from John is, did the page URLs change as well? So if you could come back to us on that one. Yeah, so if Roxana or Eva, if you have any comments on that question.
If they went from one version to another without passing on those signals from one version to another, then it's as if they did new URLs.
Yeah.
even though we're only talking about the W in front with or without. But one character extra we're missing from a URL makes it a new URL when it comes to search engines. Now, normally you'd have a canonical on the page, so even if it's with www or without, it shouldn't matter if the canonical is the same, because that could act as the thing that passes on the signals from one version to another. Of course, a redirect would be better. There's a thing and I'm going to upset some people. Whenever somebody tells me it is not possible to do something, my answer is no, you don't know how to do it yet.
Fully supported.
I would push on those redirects. There must be a way. It's impossible not to be able to do redirects somehow. It might just be more complicated than just going to a plugin, for instance.
But honestly, it's a simple thing. I've not used Wix extensively. I've migrated from Wix to WordPress, but there's a thing called htaccess file where you do those kinds of redirects. When I was building websites that don't even have a CMS, I just put that file and I specify which version of the website is the one I want showed. It goes for HTTP and www versions.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes it might be more complicated. They have to use your server's config file to be able to do the redirect. Maybe sometimes you just do it on the edge. I don't know. Like, there are solutions if you absolutely want a solution, but a clear no in the situation, I would keep pushing through it. But if we go back to the fact that the URLs changed because you were consistently promoting one version and now you're going to a different version, it might take some time before search engines put the two into together, because it is the same page, it is the same content and everything. And in Search Console, when you get like Google chose a different canonical for your page, you want that to happen at some point for the pages to get together. But of course, you want to push that to happen faster. Redirects are the best. Canonical is your second choice. So have the canonical pointing to your whatever version you had previously, if that's the one that was ranking. But if that got de-indexed already, why trying to beat a dead horse, right? You might want to just rebuild on the new version and just take it from here. But it's a bit complicated. When you do migrations, you want to make sure those redirects happen immediately and not something you think about afterward. But in this case, you might just need a bit of time to get back to where you were before.
Yeah, definitely. And when migrating, always use a staging website. I cannot emphasize that long enough. Always have a separate website for it because of these kinds of things. And definitely, if the URLs got on, and I've had this happen, but with a smaller client, and then we just winged it from the ones that got indexed, and that's what you said, Roxana. Basically, it's beating a dead horse if you go focus on the ones that got unindexed. Just use the ones that got indexed. Fix this, make the redirects happen, and just build it from there is definitely the best advice.
And I just noticed John said that the dub or non-dub matters less than having completely different page URLs. But that's why I'm saying you just need a bit of time for those connections to happen again.
Yeah,
sorry, no, I'm just saying I've just shared the domain, so thanks for sharing that, the person who wrote it in the chat. So yeah, there is this domain. I wanted to point out what Simon said earlier. He said that Wix has extensive redirect tools and you don't need a dev to use them, but it would of course require you or someone else to have a look at this in more detail. And also Simon said that Wix auto redirects from non-www to www. You're going to see them in Google Search Console because of the inlinks from other sites. Sorry, go ahead, Iva.
Yeah, I was just gonna bounce off what Roxana said, and what John wrote is, yeah, it doesn't matter which version you choose, as long as it's HTTPS, that's always non-negotiable. But it doesn't matter if it's a www or non-www. It's if it redirects the person, if somebody's coming to the website directly, it'll go to the page. So it doesn't matter what the person is typing if they're going directly. And for Google, I don't really think it matters, because I've had both versions of multiple websites I worked with. I worked with www, naked ones, and it doesn't really make that much of a difference for rankings. That is true, though, what Nafisa said. That is true. Yeah, definitely. Like when moving from www to non-W, make sure that the internal links are good. Definitely, whoever asked this question, when you go to fix this, do a crawl, do a screaming frog crawl to see what's happening, fix the redirects, and then find the links that you want. Check the links that make sure everything is properly.
Yeah, you need to consistently point to the version that you want indexed. So if you have internal links pointing to both, or you have canonicals pointing to both, or so on, then you're mixing signals. But just point everything to the version you want indexed, and that should help get those pages in.
Amazing.
Kind of like the website.
Joe, anything to add?
No, just reviewing the comments, you have a lot. Natalia was saying the domain is resolving to www with a 301 redirect. It just seems like Google needs time to reflect that change. Just give yourself that space. And if you do need to, of course, speak to anyone, just manage their expectations on this one. As Nafisa said, by moving from a www to a non-www or vice versa, you do risk breaking all the internal link or backlinks as well. Yeah, someone saying, as Simon said, this is a nice site. John actually said you can find the old URLs in Google Search Console and archive.org if you want to check them. Okay, the person said that they have some light now. Okay, great. And we also have, yeah, just Amrit was saying that when this happens, sometimes there's no SEO audits done. And so something has changed without everyone being informed. So you can manage this by just, going back to your management or your managers to tell them what was done, what we're trying to manage now. And if we do this again, that we need to obviously plan this because it looks like it was done without probably a lot of thought. So yeah, sorry, there's lots of comments about WordPress and Wix CMS. So I won't go into that, but thanks everyone. Loads of questions that we've answered already and lots of comments in the chat. We've already gone through 4 so far questions.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. I was just having a quick look at just the domain, and it either looks like it's a fairly new domain or that you've switched actual domain name as well, from what I can see when looking in one of the sort of third-party tools. So I'm wondering if you did some other things as well and maybe change content and so on rather than just the dub. But I could be wrong. I'm just quickly looking on the fly then. Great. Okay, let's just jump on to the next question, I think.
Yeah, we're getting
So much
through
amazing
them.
advice.
And
Okay,
thanks everyone. Sorry, I was just going to say thanks everyone for adding so much. And those that are watching us the recording, if you do want to join us live, just sign up to SEO Office Hours on the Good Signals website. And then you can also add your input to these questions.
Amazing. Okay, we run a small business specializing in crafting coats, jumpers, harnesses, collars, and more tailored for specific dog breeds. Our brand has flourished on Instagram and Facebook, bringing in around 650,000 in revenue. So far, we've grown organically, but we know SEO could help us scale. At what stage does it make financial sense to bring in an agency, and how do we measure whether it's worth it? And then they've added a second question, which is, if now is the right time, what are the basics we should expect to hear from an agency when we first approach them? And what should they be able to demonstrate straight away to show they're worth the investment? Joe, hands up, go for it.
I think this is something that's very close to what I was working on, and many of us, and you as well, Mike. I would say that's great that you've grown so organically, so quickly. SEO can definitely help you to scale. I would say it makes financial sense from if you have the time and the budget. I would say it makes resource sense. See where you need the help with and create a brief for someone, an independent person or an agency to help you with that. And how do you measure whether it's worth it? That find the gap, what you need help with, and pitch that out to that agency. If now is the right time, what are the basics we should expect to hear from the agency when we first approach them? As I said, have that brief ready and then speak to them. Find out what their specialty is and how they can help you. Do you need more help with digital PR? Do you need more help with some of the devs part of the website? Do you need help with some email marketing? And then you can work with that agency really to fill in those gaps. What should they be able to demonstrate straight away to show they're worth the investment? That is what you're missing. So if you're wanting the digital PR, you can actually find out from them what they've done in the past. They can share a couple of ideas of what they could do with you, and they could help you with how to pitch to the press. That would come under their remit. If it's dev, then they would show you how they could help you. And then if it's something like email marketing, again, they could show how to help you. So you can always message people in our industry to have, once you know what you're missing, then reach out to those agencies. just saying that Good Signals does do some pretty great work. So you could always
Joe, thanks.
message Mike and find out.
I'll take that. Thanks, Joe. Eva or Roxana, do you have any thoughts on this?
Joe said it properly and everything. Definitely. The first question is at what stage it makes financial sense? Fit the budget, see what your budget is. But somebody in the comments said that if it's a small business, maybe a marketing consultant, which is also a great tip because I work with a lot as a freelancer. I work in a lot of small businesses because it's more approachable for them to hire a freelancer. So consider that. But yeah, just make sure you're at agency. I've had a lot of working agency side and while working freelance, I've had a lot of clients come with some bad work done from the agency. So get recommendations and vet the agency before you hire them. But pretty much that's it. I don't have much to add.
No wonder Simon said the thing I was going to say as well, because we both like numbers. You want to have an idea of how the market looks that you're trying to tap into and think how I would do it. I'd look at the market and then say, if I was to increase to get 1% of this market, how many visits is that? Considering my website conversion, how many people, like actual customers, would that be? And considering their average order value, how much money am I making? And then take that sum and think, okay, so how much of this am I willing to spend on an agency doing this work for me? And then I'd combine that with what you said, Joe, and put that in a brief and say, this is the budget you get, including paying yourself. This is the money I want to see out of it. Who can do it? And then go agency shopping pretty much to see who can come up with a plan that can get me there.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I was going to add that about, I think the first thing I would do, and some agencies are willing to do this for free and pitch, some people you'll have to pay for, but I would ask them to put a plan together. And as I said, you might have to pay for that, but rather than jumping into sort of a 12-month contract or something like that, I'd probably hire somebody, interview a few people and try and find out what they specialize in and what they think they could deliver. And then get them to, the first thing is to spend the first month, say, putting a marketing strategy together for you to work out, A, is SEO right for you? Based on what you said, what you sell, I imagine there is search volume there. But obviously, I would get somebody to do keyword research, all that kind of stuff, and basically give you some numbers to show you what the opportunity is. One thing to be careful of is you don't want people who, I'll get you to number one for sure and all that stuff.
They understand how the market looks like and they understand how you could be relevant to that market. I'm thinking in this situation where you're manually producing things like this, there's a lot of keywords around handmade. So that's the one you want to see. But also, I think it's like a content heavy type of task to get that market in this case. You're trying to address the problems that people might have where your product solves it. So you want to talk about those problems to attract the people that way, and then they might discover your product as a potential solution. So you want to hear people who understand that, not who just tell you're going to rank first on everything, just hire us.
Amazing. Roxana, you perfectly picked up on the rest of that point. But yeah, as long as whatever they present back to you, I would just make sure you get them to explain why they're doing it and what they think might happen. And obviously nothing's a given because you can't, as an SEO, you can't control the outputs, you can only control the inputs, but you want to know what they're going to be doing and how they're going to be feeding back. And I think once you decide whether you go ahead, I would potentially break that down where you say they do certain parts, you do other parts. For instance, when it comes to creating content, you guys probably know your industry and your products better than the agency. So you could have a bit of a partnership there where you're helping create that content and those ideas, and then maybe they look at optimizing it or presenting it in a certain way rather than them doing everything straight away. And hopefully you'll get some results in the first couple of months or start to see things go in the right direction of travel. But obviously it's not a huge business, like you said, and spending 100 grand a year on an agency would be a lot of money. So I would proceed with caution and make sure you've got those kind of points in place where actually it's not working, I'm going to stop there, rather than getting tied into sort of a 12-month contract or anything like that. As somebody that owns an agency, that's probably not the best thing to say. Hopefully, if you work with somebody and they're good at what they do, you would hope that they're not too worried about that. Does anybody else have anything to add, or do we have anything in the chat, Joe?
Yes, we have that. Albert saying that he recommends hiring a dedicated SEO person to manage and strategize SEO efforts. then onboarding the agency or team members to further scale them. So it's really important to have good foundations. Simon's saying that additionally for the site, get a tech SEO audit done. Do it every year, once a year, and ensure the site's working okay. And it's different from these free audits. You need to definitely get this tech edit done, and then you can actually assess and do a traffic light system to see what's most important or not. John's saying I'd pay for an analysis to get an objective review. That's a good one. Sorry, I was just also looking at some of the jokes about when we lost our sound.
I read the mic drop and all that stuff. We need a new mic. Saw that one as well.
Yeah, actually, this is quite a good one from Rob. Does this exist as a service, an SEO onboarder, someone to deal with interviewing and assessing the process? That's quite a good idea.
Yes,
But, yeah.
for what it's worth, that's actually something that I've done lots of when I've put strategies together for people. The recommendation has been not to use us, but we help you find somebody in-house that we can then train up in the basics and do. We actually have a thing on our site, which is like an accountability club, where we basically make sure you're going in the right direction and keep up to date. Sorry, to check in with you and make sure your marketing activities are moving forward and make sure you're continuing to learn and you've still got that soundboard. But that's I've done that lots, where I've helped interview, I've helped look through CVs, I've helped find teams and then train those managers with the idea that they'll no longer need us. Eva, I don't know, is that something you do as well as a freelancer?
I was gonna say, yeah, it's part of the SEO consultant role. Kind of like a lot of the businesses want to consult before moving to an agency. They want to outsource the whole entire marketing thing, and I'm not available full time for that. So it is something I help with. And I used to do this agency side, but not for SEO, for web development. Similar what you just said now, which is amazing, like the whole onboarding thing. I worked only WordPress websites. Sorry for people advocating against it in the comments, but I work with WordPress websites, and whenever we had a client request a different kind of platform like Squarespace, Webflow, Wix, I would help them find somebody. We as an agency would help them find somebody that can help them with that. Because I myself, and while always working agency side, I don't want to take on projects that I cannot handle. And as a freelancer, I don't want to take on projects that I cannot handle as well because of the capacity. Because I do cover the whole digital marketing scope, but I also don't want to overexert myself. So I've helped businesses find agencies that can help them.
Yeah, I think it's really useful, because especially if you're interviewing and you want to work out, does somebody who says they do X, do they actually know what they're talking about, or have they just read a blog post? And actually having somebody sit in on that Zoom interview, or actually coming to the office and helping you interview, can be quite useful, because you as, say, the business owner or the marketing director, SEO is just one of many things that you do. And I get that all these different trends or changes is not at the front of your mind. So paying somebody for a few hours to come and just sit there and help you interview can be useful.
Exactly, especially like when you don't know the field, when you don't know what, like business owners don't know marketing or SEO or whatever aspect, and they need that help. And it's important, like it's best to pay somebody for a few hours a month to help you find the person who will get you going from the start, instead of paying somebody to fix what the previous person has done.
Yeah, and also with a business like this, where actually you said you're growing organically, you might, rather than want to engage with an SEO agency, you might want to bring in somebody who is actually just a marketing person for you, and they just might need a little bit of training in SEO. Or you might want to do what Simon said, where you have that person come and do a technical audit and help that person fix those things, and show that person maybe the sort of process to doing keyword research and search competitor analysis and all that stuff, and then leaving them to it. But I sometimes when somebody's working across multiple channels, such as social and so on, they're also quite good at then using assets that they've done for SEO for social or for webinars or for all of those things. And potentially, if I've done that with, say, grads, and potentially you end up with somebody that can be your future head of marketing and can do the same thing with other grads and stuff in the future. Roxana, did you have anything to add?
Not really. I think you guys covered it perfectly.
Great, amazing. How are we doing for time? 7 minutes. Okay, we'll try and fit this one in before our regular question. Oh no, we'll go to this one instead. Okay, so this question is actually from somebody who works in the same building as me, and they are 6 or 7 weeks into their business, and that you might have seen on my LinkedIn, they sell exotic fruit, and it's so things like dragon fruit and so on. And I thought I'd be nice and prioritize them, even though I've left them at that very last moment. So basically, it's a new business, and I know that they're doing some SEO and they're doing some PPC and so on, but their product is quite unique. So their question is basically, people aren't really searching for what we do directly. But so we've basically been building our marketing around events like Christmas and Ramadan, and it's worked for us. Is it possible to grow a business this way long term? And as I said, they sell exotic fruit. So B2C, people can buy and it gets sent to their houses each week, or corporate events, weddings, all of those kind of stuff. Is it possible? Roxana, what do you think?
Of course it is. Nothing is impossible if you can find a way to do it. This reminds me of a similar problem. I'm part of an AI accelerator and trying to help some students that want to use AI to solve certain social problems. And I'm there to guide them when it comes to digital and how to get a digital presence. And that's their problem as well. How do people find us if they don't know AI can solve their problem in this case? I had to think about it because it might not be SEO that helps you, because if people don't already search for the thing you're offering, they won't find you through SEO. One of the things I was thinking, you attach yourself to a related business, and that's how people find out about you. If we're talking about fruit, I don't know what a related thing would be, but for instance, with Christmas, I can think about cards and stuff. I don't know if you can advertise on cards, who knows? But go to a shop that sells a lot of Christmas stuff where a lot of people come in, and have a partnership to also advertise you do fruit or fruit platters or whatever you do for Christmas. So that's how people find out you exist as a service and can solve a problem they didn't even know they had in the first place. Of course, it would take a lot of thinking around all these different events, but I'm sure there's ways to partner up with somebody else that caters to these events in some way, and then also have your business there as well. Of course, you don't want to be in competition with them in any way, and there has to be some sort of synergy if you're partnering up with somebody. But I think that's a way you can get your business in front of people when they don't know they need it. And then as you grow and people learn about it, they will start searching for it. So later on, organic might be a thing. Another one, social. Just put it in front of people, even though they haven't asked for it. That's how I buy all the crap around me. I don't know I need it until I see it on social, and then I can't live without it. So that's maybe an easier way to do it.
Amazing. Iva, do you have any thoughts? Is it possible to grow a long-term business this way?
It is. There's a lot of seasonality potential with that. But I think even like around seasonality, it is possible. I would be interested in buying exotic fruit, definitely, because whenever I go to my local grocery shop and find something that's exotic, I always get them. So I think people would love to. And yeah, if it's like around holidays and events like this, definitely would be like people would wanna do it. It is possible. There's some basically a lot of the things, and I definitely agree with her on the social media potential. It is visuals and social media, especially like on TikTok. I think this would go well on TikTok if it's UK based, because it's in the same building. So yeah, definitely TikTok would be wonderful for this. It would have a huge potential and a huge reach, I think.
Great. Joe, do you have anything to add, or is there anything in the chat before we hit our last question?
Actually, I would say, like, I've used to have these fruits being delivered to work. So I would say, why don't we just have this as one of these soft benefits that people have at work? Someone told me that fruit in England is a bit boring, and these people are from outside of England, because they say that it's always like banana, apple, oranges. Can't we have something different? So I think it's quite nice to have this exotic fruit as well. So I would say put that target big corporations to make sure that they have this in there as part of their soft benefits, fresh exotic fruit.
Amazing. I actually gave them feedback directly, so I'm going to save everybody's time. But very similar, and we also talked about the more kind of B2B side of things as well, and weddings and all those different areas. What are you most excited about in terms of SEO? Iva, what are you most excited about?
I am most excited about seeing how things will go out. The AI and AI agent situation, I'm very looking forward to. I haven't deep dived much into it, but I'm very much excited to see how it will pan out and how the search channels will diversify, with not just Google being the main one, but also the others as well. So I'm very looking forward to that.
And Roxana, have you changed since January? What are you most excited
Well,
about
yeah,
since
that's
letting
what
me
I was
know?
thinking. I'm still excited about those things, so I'm quite consistent with that. But a new thing, just I'm getting to do a bit of a more traditional technical SEO project. I can't tell you what it is, but I'm very excited about it. So that's what I'm excited about in this moment.
Amazing. Joe, very quickly, what are you most excited about?
I know I always say events, but I am very excited about communities. So I just want to give a big shout out to Arija's book. I shared it in the link. It's available on Amazon. It's about community building for marketers, how to connect, engage, and foster growth. So I would recommend to pick up a copy from Amazon if you have that in your country, and order your own copy. And I'm excited to actually get in and read more of it.
Amazing. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you to those watching us live. Thank you to those watching after on YouTube. Iva, Roxana, thank you so much for being our special guests. Joe, thanks for co-hosting, and thank you those who submitted questions. I hope you have an amazing, sunny, lovely weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you, Roxana.
Thank you.
Ivan.
Have a good weekend.
Have a
Bye,
good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.